Two men gunned down in a mobile home in Decatur on Halloween night, who police have behind bars accused of the murders. Plus, video proof of a 3-year-old being disciplined at Anna Waters' Head Start.
I was like outraged, I cried, you know.
What a mother wants done tonight. And a man takes his kid trick-or-treating. Why this holiday was more than just getting candy.
WAND News at 10 starts now.
A preschool under fire tonight after a mother releases this video showing how a worker disciplined her child.
But first, breaking news. Decatur police have made an arrest in the Halloween double homicide.
Decatur police say Quintrevious Richardson shot 2 men to death inside a mobile home in the Park City neighborhood about 10 last night. Now, Richardson facing 2 counts of first-degree murder. The names of the victims have not yet been released. If you have any information on this ongoing investigation, call police or Crime Stoppers at 423-TIPS.
A mother outraged tonight after a video showing a school worker treated her son roughly at Anna Waters' Head Start in Decatur.
WAND's Lexi Ratterman in the newsroom sat down tonight with the mother, shares this exclusive video.
Absolutely furious after she heard what happened to her son and saw this shocking video. Now she wants answers.
October 18th is the last time 3-year-old Kyannis Wells went to Anna Waters' Head Start on Condit Street after his mother says the teachers treated him roughly.
My son don't want to go back to school. He's 3, you know, he still has a whole life ahead of him, which he needs his education. You know, something needs to be done to where he's comfortable enough to be able to want to join school again.
She says it took weeks for her to finally see this video showing one of the teachers picking her son up by his collar.
The video where she got up, not once but twice, picked him up by the shirt, the collar of his shirt, picked him up a little bit off the ground, set him back down. You know, I wasn't informed. You know, they talked about bad behavior with my son, but not ever did they call me and let me know, you know, my son was acting in any type of way. So I was like, outraged. I cried.
DCFS says it is investigating the school for possible issues, including suspected child abuse or neglect and other violations when it comes to early childhood assistance being under direct supervision.
He did not want to be at school. He told me that if he stayed at school, that the woman was going to hit him.
We have reached out to Anna Waters' Head Start, but they provided no comment. The mother does say the director of the program told her one teacher was suspended.
My son was abused in a school facility, and something needs to be done about it.
Does he fly? The mother also says other parts of the video shows Kyannis needing to use the restroom but not being allowed to go. Now, again, she is still waiting for answers from DCFS, but at this time they could not provide any more information than what was given in that story. Live in the newsroom, Lexi Ratterman, WAND News.
A chase ended in a violent crash in downtown Decatur yesterday evening. Now the Sheriff's Department are reviewing its pursuit policy. As we first showed you last night at 10, a chase and crash caused a white SUV to roll over at Franklin and William Street near the Decatur Post Office. The chase started in the South Shores area on a felony warrant stop. Sheriff's Office has policies on pursuits, and the policy will come under review, they say, as it would after any chase.
So we always look at all policies. So we will look at this too. Things that you go through, you reevaluate, and that's what we'll be doing with this situation, as well as many others that we do here at the Sheriff's Office.
2 people were arrested, and a passenger inside the SUV and the driver of the car struck were taken to the hospital for treatment. University of Illinois police say a woman was sexually assaulted at a fraternity overnight. The police issued a campus safety notice. Officers say the victim knew the person who assaulted them. Well, State Senator Ira Silverstein has stepped down now from his role on the Democratic leadership team after accusations of sexual harassment. Silverstein, who is a Chicago Democrat, was accused by Denise Rothheimer of sending her unwanted social media messages, calling her late at night, and saying her looks were, quote, intoxicating. Today, Senate President John Cullerton announced Silverstein resigned from his leadership position, which will remain vacant for now. Silverstein has apologized for making Rothheimer uncomfortable, but denies any sexual harassment. Cullerton says the sexual harassment awareness training seminar will be scheduled for next week.
A child is in critical condition after being hit by a car on Halloween. It happened at the intersection of State Street and Williams in Westville about 7 p.m. A 7-year-old and a 13-year-old had just left a trunk or treat event last night when the chief says, you know what, they just dread going on calls that involve children.
Our main concern, right, when the accident first happened was getting the kids help, okay, and getting the witnesses' names and stuff like that. And now the next step is getting them in here, talking to them, see what they saw, and everything.
The driver is a young adult female. No arrests have been made.
Central Illinois' most watched newscast. WAND News at 10.
But I never thought I would come to baseball practice for a game for charity, for local D.C. charities, and have to dodge bullets.
But that is exactly what happened in a horrifying turn of events this morning in Virginia. 4 people wounded, including a congressman, when a gunman opened fire at a practice for a charity baseball game. The identified shooter from Belleville, Illinois. Tonight, we have team coverage. Thanks for being with us. Congressman Rodney Davis from Taylorville was visibly shaken when he talked to the media after the shootings this morning.
Davis was actually at the plate for an at-bat when the shots rang out. He took cover in the dugout after hearing someone yell, "He's got a gun." Congressman Steve Scalise, who was shot and badly wounded, is a friend of Davis's.
And I immediately ran into the dugout and dove in there. And since I was up the bat, I was one of the later ones, so I was on top of people. I didn't figure that was the best place to be. So I ended up moving out and dispersing to other safer areas. But I never thought I would come to baseball practice for a game for charity, for local D.C. charities, and have to dodge bullets.
Did you see the shooter at any point? Did you come face to face with him? What happened in the aftermath?
No, I did not see the shooter. I was running away from where the shooter was, but the aftermath, I saw my good friend Steve Scalise laying in the outfield. I saw other staffers and former staffers dealing with gunshot wounds, and I saw the heroism of the Capitol police officers that are part of Steve Scalise's security detail who engaged with the shooter and saved everyone's life. These are the true heroes of what happened today. Those 2 members of his security detail are the ones who made sure that there were no casualties.
It looks like you were a little banged up at least. Is this from diving into the dugout to take cover, or?
I don't remember. Just in a Monty Python way, slight flesh wound.
I've talked to a couple of your other colleagues who have something similar to that. What's your view of what should happen next? Should the game go on?
Absolutely, I think the game should go on. I think we should be able to raise even more money for local D.C. charities and send a message to those who practice this type of hate that we're the United States of America, and we come together as Republicans like me and as Democrats to come together for our country.
Well, the shooter killed by Capitol Police is James Hodgkinson from Belleville, Illinois. That's just outside of St. Louis on the Illinois side. WAND's Lexi Ratterman spent the day in Belleville, where the FBI continues to look for clues into the shooter's motives.
I'm outside of where police say gunman James T. Hodgkinson lived. His house is right here behind me. FBI have searched the home all morning and afternoon. A friend I spoke to earlier says he believes Hodgkinson's political beliefs may have tipped him over the edge. Some of his posts we found on Facebook before the page was removed appeared to show that he was not a Trump supporter. Bernie Sanders actually released a statement earlier saying Hodgkinson volunteered during his presidential campaign, but Sanders did not condone this action. The friend that visited the home this morning says Hodgkinson didn't cause much trouble growing up, other than a couple of bar fights.
I just want to let people know that he wasn't evil, that he was, I guess, tired of some of the politics that are going on. He's passionate in what he believed.
Hodgkinson's next-door neighbor says he's completely in shock to find out that his neighbor is capable of such a horrific act. In Belleville, Lexi Ratterman, WAND News.
Well, we are learning more about the conviction of Congressman Scalise. He had received multiple units of blood and remains in critical condition. He will need another surgery. Doctors are treating a single gunshot wound to the hip. Here's more on what we have learned about the shooter. He was born and raised in Belleville and graduated high school there in 1968. He owned an inspection business. Court records show Hodgkinson has a history of arrests, including for battery, resisting arrest, and drunk driving. His run-ins with police started in the 90s. Records show he's not actually been involved in any legal cases since 2011.
And that terror that unfolded this morning was caught on video. Multiple gunshots ringing out, one after the other, people yelling. This is cell phone video from a man who happened to witness the shootings as he walked his dog near the ballpark.
Now, first weather from Storm Center 17, home of the exclusive Miles Storm Runner Equinox. Central Illinois' best source for news and weather.
The impasse is over. A new budget approved for the state of Illinois. The mixed reactions it's bringing tonight, plus a security scare before that crucial vote.
We knew it was over when we could feel the air moving again, pretty much.
The actions of one woman that forced a total lockdown of the state capitol building and stopping so-called golden parachutes. One case being brought to light in our I-Team report.
WAND News at 10 starts now.
Thanks for being with us. A chaotic day at the Illinois House finally ends in a budget after a 2-year budget impasse.
Opponents of the tax increase asked members to rethink their yes votes, saying Illinois should not tax residents any further without creating any reforms. But supporters said they could not let another day go by in Illinois without having a budget. And in the end, the most controversial bill of the package, the income tax increase, passed with just enough votes.
No joy in voting for a tax increase. There's no joy. But how long can this impasse go on? We understand where we are. We are looking into an abyss, a financial abyss.
I don't think that this solves anything. I think we're going to be back here in probably a shorter period of time than anybody wants to think about doing it all over again, because there's no appetite to cut spending in that room.
Speaker Madigan rose on the floor and said members' work was not done yet, but for now they could go home. Governor Bruce Rauner released a statement calling this veto, quote, another step in Illinois' never-ending tragic trail of tax hikes, end quote. According to the Illinois Policy Institute, there were 10 House Republicans voting yes to override Governor Rauner's veto of the income tax increase. The two lawmakers from our area were Republican Representatives Sarah Wojcicki-Jimenez of Leland Grove and Bill Mitchell of Forsyth. And Democrat Sue Shearer of Decatur changed her no vote Sunday to a yes vote today, saying the governor gave her no choice. Even though Illinois has a budget, the work is not over yet. Funding for K-12 schools is contingent on an evidence-based school funding formula, which the state doesn't currently have. Senate Bill 1 is a school funding reform bill which does have an evidence-based funding formula. This bill passed both houses, but Governor Rauner has said he would veto that bill as well. The House does not have enough votes to override it. Lawmakers still have more work to do this summer.
New tonight at 10, because of the new budget, one Illinois lottery game is back in Illinois. The Illinois Lottery announcing tonight Mega Millions will resume sales. However, Powerball is still being discussed. A lockdown at the Capitol today. WAND's Megan Odell was at the scene when it was under lockdown and brings you a recap.
A 2-hour lockdown at the state capitol sent emergency crews rushing in and out as lawmakers were stuck inside.
We were reading news reports and things like that. There were a few announcements on the floor, but beyond that, we were just kind of sitting around waiting for things to happen.
It's been a heated couple of days here at the Capitol during budget negotiations, but Thursday afternoon, that heat turned literal for lawmakers.
They turned off the ventilation system, and you could tell that it had been turned off. It got quite warm quite fast. We knew it was over when we could feel the air moving again, pretty much.
Hazmat crews searched the building after police say someone spread a powdery substance outside the governor's office and other locations on the Capitol's second floor.
Springfield Fire Hazmat was contacted and responded to the scene. The substance was declared not to be a hazard. We do have one female in custody at this time.
We're confident that evidence was collected and that there's not a hazardous situation at this time.
In Springfield, Megan Odell, WAND News.
Hazmat crew still investigating exactly what that powdery substance was and will release that information.
Illinois universities have been a casualty of the state budget fight, but as I-Team reporter Doug Wolf tells us, one university just handed out a lucrative golden parachute to a former school president.
Northern Illinois University, a quiet campus at the center of a growing and costly controversy.
We need better laws that allow public bodies to terminate these employees for malfeasance.
$600,000, it's just insane.
My blood boils, just like probably anybody watching this right now.
Like many universities around the state, Northern Illinois University is in money trouble. But that's not stopping the Board of Trustees from handing out a big buyout.
NIU hired President Doug Baker in 2013 after a series of scandals, including the so-called coffee fund case, where university employees were charged with stealing scrap metal and putting the money into a slush fund. The university covered $64,000 in legal fees for the individuals who were charged in the investigation.
And they pled guilty, and then the college paid their defense attorneys. When the Senate found out about that, they changed the law.
Now, NIU President Baker is under fire for his handling of hiring. The state's Office of Executive Inspector General issued a scathing report in May, concluding Baker mismanaged the university when 5 consultants were paid as though they were part-time instructors, handing them more than $1 million over 2 years, as well as travel and lodging without restrictions. It caught the eye of lawmakers like State Senator Chapin Rose.
It makes it harder and harder for higher education as a whole to come down and try to advocate for what they're trying to do, and in some cases really important stuff when you see this kind of nonsense on the TV at night.
Under fire, Baker announced in June he would resign. The Board of Trustees' response? Giving Baker $450,000, equal to 1 year of his salary, plus $137,500 to give up a tenured position in the College of Business, and another $30,000 to cover his legal expenses. That's more than $600,000.
I think that's more than enough evidence to support termination with cause. He shouldn't be getting a single penny.
John Kraft and Kirk Allen of the Edgar County Watchdogs have been following spending at NIU for several years. They are critical of the payout, especially after the bombshell report from the Executive Inspector General.
With a statement that said he mismanaged Northern Illinois University. So how can you mismanage something and then the board give you a massive payout like that?
And we need contracts that are much stronger and benefit the taxpayer more than what they do now.
Some members of the legislature are up in arms, having dealt with similar big payouts at the University of Illinois and the College of DuPage for employees who have left under a cloud.
We thought a few years ago we'd pass some legislation to try to crack down on this whole so-called golden parachute nonsense, but apparently not. So now we have to go back to the drawing board and figure out what we can put in and try to stop this once and for all.
In effect, that's a bonus for doing a bad job. I mean, you can wonder why the citizens of this state are saying, what the hell's the matter with the people that are running this state?
While on the NIU campus investigating this story, an individual from media relations said President Baker is not doing interviews concerning his buyout. His final day on the job was last Friday. For the I-Team, Doug Wolf, WAND News.
A DeKalb woman is suing NIU in an attempt to vacate the deal with former President Baker. Her suit contends the university violated the Illinois Open Meetings Act when it struck a deal for Baker's payout. A state budget is great news for a women's shelter in Champaign. Courage Connection, a domestic violence shelter in Champaign, relies heavily on state funding. Currently, the state owes them $330,000. When that money never showed up, the shelter almost closed. Instead, the community raised $390,000 in just 10 weeks. The executive director says there were times she had to pay salaries with her own money, and she can't thank the community enough.
And that means we have the cash on hand to get to the end of July until the federal funds start coming in now that we have reset the fiscal year. And it is an incredible gift from the community, and the truth is we would not be open without them.
$100,000 of the money raised was from a loan from Busey Bank. Griffith says they look forward to being reimbursed by the state so they can in turn pay back the bank. United States Senator Dick Durbin says a health care plan being proposed by Republicans will spell disaster for Illinois. Durbin was at Taylorville Memorial Hospital today, where he says GOP plans to repeal Obamacare and it will throw 22 million people off their health insurance and decimate Medicaid. He pointed to a Champaign family who needs Medicaid to protect their adult son.
A lady told about her autistic son, who is now in his 20s,
Medicaid is his health insurance plan, and without the benefits and services of Medicaid, he would have to be in an institutional setting at over $300,000 a year. So Medicaid is a lifeline for many disabled people.
The U.S. Senate will be back in session starting Monday. It's expected to remain in session for 3 more weeks.
Community members paying tribute to an Illinois state trooper who died last month. Trooper Ryan Albin died after a crash on Interstate 74 in DeWitt County. This morning, officers from around the country gathered for his funeral in Farmer City. Afterward, people lined streets for a procession through the towns of Mansfield and Bellflower, his hometown.
It absolutely shows that people do support law enforcement and they do support their neighbors and their friends. And it's important to show that respect.
That procession included officers from around the country. Officials say Governor Rauner was also in attendance at the funeral.
A Decatur man pleads not guilty for the attempted murder of his ex-girlfriend. The victim told police 27-year-old Jamal Rice punched and choked her back in June. He's also facing stalking and domestic violence charges. He remains in jail on $250,000 bond. A prostitution sting at 3 massage businesses in Terre Haute, Indiana. The sheriff's department there says 4 women are facing prostitution charges. The 3 massage businesses have been shut down. Investigators say they first learned about the activity thanks to a tip from a concerned wife whose husband often visited the locations. One parlor had a Backpage.com website saying men could visit the location after midnight. Also new tonight, Bill Cosby will be back in court later this year. A Pennsylvania judge has set a retrial date for November 6th. Cosby's sexual assault trial ended in a mistrial last month. The case says Cosby drugged and molested Andrea Constant in 2004. Cosby pleaded not guilty and has claimed that the encounter was consensual. The 79-year-old comedian will be retried on 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault.
To Florida for a police chase. Caught on camera, the truck can be seen plowing through fences, dodging cows. This is dash cam video from a sheriff's deputy in Florida. Deputies got a report of a stolen truck. The chase begins. Suspect went off-road, across cow pastures, through wooded areas, destroying several fences. Nearly 40 minutes later, the officers finally close in on the stolen truck. At that point, deputies arrested Gregory Walker. All right, listen closely. You'll hear him tell officers why he didn't stop.
Giving y'all something to do. Is that me? Sorry. Yeah. I'm just giving y'all something to do.
Walker charged with larceny, resisting an officer without violence, and fleeing and eluding police.
Newscast. WAND News at 10.
He would have been going any faster. I believe there would have been casualties.
A school bus carrying the Teutopolis High School basketball team crashes in Moultrie County. 5 students rushed to the hospital this afternoon.
WAND News has brand new surveillance video this evening of the crash. We're going to break it down for you shortly. But first, WAND News spoke with a player on the bus and witnesses.
WAND's Megan Odell was the first reporter on the scene and shows you what happened.
And I'm praying for all of them because I'm a mother and I would be just mortified if that was my children on that bus.
A school bus and van slammed into each other on Route 32 in Moultrie County Friday afternoon.
Very lucky. What could have happened, what could have been, if that would have been any harder, if it would have been he would have been going any faster, I believe there would have been casualties.
35 basketball players, cheerleaders, and coaches were on the bus on their way to a game at Lincoln College. Lane Belleville, a senior at Teutopolis, was one of those players.
Just shocked and, a little scared because, that is a scary thing especially that big of a vehicle to tip like that. Yeah.
Lauren Lilico manages the restaurant right across from where the crash happened.
When I could hear it inside of my store, inside of 3 different doors, that was loud. So they had to have hit really hard.
Ambulances rushed 5 students and the driver of the van to the hospital. All are expected to be okay. I'm Megan Odell, WAND News.
And let's break down this video for you. Surveillance video from Howie's Lakeside service station shows the bus traveling northbound when the van going east hits the back of it. The force of that collision forces the bus as it moves forward to begin to tip onto its side. And eventually, that bus did end up on its side there on Route 32, and that blocked traffic in those lanes. Thankfully, no other car was heading in the other direction. Now, let's take a bigger look at that video now. As we told you earlier, there were 35 people aboard, including the driver and the two topless high school basketball players and cheerleaders. None were seriously hurt, but a scary moment for sure. Developing news tonight, power is out in Cerro Gordo. Ameren, Illinois says a car struck a pole after 6 this evening, causing businesses and more than 2,000 people to lose power. Our video shows streets blacked out. Ameren says most people have power restored at this point. At least 500 people should have it back by 4 a.m. Saturday.
Police are still looking for the driver who seriously injured 2 people in a hit and run. A silver or gray Ford struck 2 people, a tow truck operator, and the driver he was helping. Now, the victims are 48-year-old Chris Moore of Decatur and 57-year-old Jeffrey Mounts of Pennsylvania. It happened Thursday night on I-72 near Argenta in Macon County. Macon County Sheriff Tom Schneider says the Ford driver will face felony charges when he's caught. New tonight, a GoFundMe page is set up for the tow truck driver. Now, the man, Chris Moore, is pictured here with a mustache. Now, his friend, Missy Doherty, says Moore is having surgery for a number of injuries. You can visit our website to find out how to donate.
Now, first weather from Storm Center 17, home of the exclusive Miles Storm Runner